What's up, yo?
We're here on some other hardware that we are trying to maybe get away from. Excuse me. I don't know. Maybe get away from. Maybe keeps using it. We use whatever we can, whatever works at the time. That's the equipment that we use.
We use what we got to do what we want.
So profound on this Friday night slash Saturday morning. This is
We are
nerdy
the
by
We
nature
Tried.
productions.
We are the We Tried channel presented by Nerdy by Nature Productions.
There we go. We're all kinds of stuff. You know where to find us on YouTube and Twitter and Instagram, Twitch, Threads, Facebook, all those places. That's
Yep.
Leroy. I'm Michael. And we got another tape press play for y'all talking about a couple different topics. Leroy
Talk
has
about
some interest.
suits. Mike Ross. We talking about. We not talking about suits,
I mean, we could talk about suits up till season two for me, or
son.
season,
I'm on season
yeah,
7. I
yeah.
like before we did this, I was watching season 7. Like I am invested. I blame you for this.
I mean,
This is
again,
all your
this was a
fault.
show that only started. I started at Comic Con. Like I didn't watch it beforehand. I was like, oh, just put this on TV.
Yeah, you did, and
But
you
here's the thing.
tormented
I
me.
mean, I don't know if I tormented you. I just put it on.
No, because I told you we shouldn't start this because now I'm going to get invested. And I was like, damn it, Michael, I'm invested. And I have been watching it since Comic Con and I'm on season 7.
I mean, you and everybody else, though, right? I mean, that's another topic we get into. It seems like
Ooh,
it's blowing up on Netflix, and the writers are like, "Hey, we're not getting any residuals from this."
blown on Netflix and Peacock.
It's on Peacock as well. Okay,
Here's the
gotcha.
funny thing. I didn't know it was on Peacock until the article
Yeah.
came out that it's blowing up. And I was like, why is Peacock not promoting it? Because Netflix promoted the hell out of it. But then
Hmm.
my Netflix started acting up. And yes, I did pay the bill this time. And Netflix started acting up, and then I saw this article, and they were like, "It's on Peacock too," and I was like, "What?" And I started watching on Peacock.
Okay.
So
Cool.
yeah,
But no, we're not talking about that. We're talking about video games. We're talking about some shady practices on review aggregator websites. Should you pay attention to review aggregator websites? Probably not. But
no,
we'll get into that. Yeah.
that's a
No.
wrap.
It's a. I guess we're
Like,
done.
comment, and subscribe.
2 minutes in, we're done with this. We'll see y'all next week.
we've
Yeah.
we've saved the internet.
Yeah. Where you want to start?
Let's start with this topic because 2023 uh, is here. We're in
Is
September.
here.
Yeah.
It's almost over.
Hey man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I sometimes don't know what day it is. Um,
Okay.
when you have like a holiday and
Hmm.
you're off. Oh, you don't because you work in news. Um,
Yeah. You get holidays now, huh?
son, I had Labor Day off and I was sitting there and I was
Yeah.
like, I gotta direct a show. I'm supposed to be at work. Like I
Yeah.
felt like I felt it. But no, 2023 is here. We have gone through the pandemic. It's now an endemic. And we talked about all the game delays. And I was wondering what makes a defining year in gaming? Because with the pandemic, a lot of games were pushed back, released, and it seems like we're getting game release after game release after game release this year. And it's almost too much. And I wondered, does 2023 go down as a defining year in gaming, like some other game years? And then it got me thinking, what constitute a great year of gaming? Like, what does it take to put a year like as a defining year? And
I don't know.
so,
For me, it was sorry. I don't want to cut you off, but for me, I feel
no,
like
go
it's
ahead.
just what kind of what were you playing that year? What really stuck out to you? I mean,
Mhm.
it all depends on what you're looking for. For me, I could think of a couple different years, or at least one year. I'm like, oh yeah, this is where a lot of good stuff came out in that year. Like right off the bat, without remembering what came out this year, I don't know that this is a defining year in gaming.
Okay.
Um, I think you have a couple of cool things. You have like your Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom,
Hmm.
which if this came out before Breath of the Wild, I think people would be even more in awe. Like again, this game is incredible, but it really built on the foundation that Breath of the Wild gave us. Um, so I don't know that it's a landmark thing. I don't know. It's tough to say. I don't know.
To me, I think it's landmark because the what that game is able to do, and I think I love to bash Nintendo for doing the thing that they do well. And I hate it, but I have now been converted. That thing of taking a game you bought years ago, putting a fresh coat of paint on it, and selling it to you again.
Hmm.
With that being said, I think Nintendo has done something that no one else has figured out how to do because they're focused, except for indie gaming. Indie gaming does this very well. They don't have the best system, they don't have the latest specs, but they have turned and made a product that has utilized everything and given you something new. And I think that is something that Zelda has done that AAA studios have not done, that Nintendo has done. Yeah, they'll
Hmm.
give you the latest graphics, they'll give you the latest firmware updates, they'll sell you uh, DLC, loot boxes, and that's not what Nintendo does. Nintendo's like, our hardware is old. This is a character you love. You're gonna play this game, but we're gonna innovate it to the point where no one else is doing what we're doing in
Hmm.
this franchise. And I think they did that with Zelda. And I would say, and the reason why I say this is the defining year in gaming, which made me think is when you think about Jeff Keighley coming up at the end of the year, and you think about game of the year, there were literally 10 games that could be in the running for game of the year, in my opinion.
That's interesting. What do you? Hmm. I feel like there are two games that people are talking about: Baldur's Gate 3 and Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom.
Really?
That's it. That's all I
Okay.
hear people talk about. What else do you think is up there?
I think Remnant 2 is up there. I think Remnant 2 could be up there. I think um, Baldur's Gate could be up there. I think Diablo could be up there. I think Spider Man is another one. Insomniac just never lets us down. Um, I think Forza.
Forza. What Forza?
Forza's coming out this year.
I don't know about that.
Oh, give me your hot take, sir.
No, I mean, hot take. What? Hold on. What? Where do you think Forza's coming out? Didn't
Isn't
that get
Forza
pushed back
coming out?
already?
Oh,
I
he
don't
did?
think so.
Oh, my bad.
Hold. Let me look some stuff up.
Okay. Okay.
You keep talking because I'm trying. Hold on. Keep
I
talking.
think Dead Space and Resident Evil 4, even though those are remakes, could be in the running. I think I think if we're looking at some indie games, I think Dredge could be up there. Um, I think Diablo 4, Final Fantasy 16.
Oh, Forza Motorsport is October 10th, huh?
Yeah.
Didn't realize.
Uh,
I apologize.
I think Mortal Kombat could be up there.
Negative.
Really?
I don't. Um.
It's interesting you said
Here's.
that. And so hold on before you go in, and I'll let you.
Mhm.
It depends on how good Alan Wake 2 is. So I guess what I'm saying is this has the potential. Super Mario Brothers, Wonder. I think there's a lot of games coming out
Mhm.
that could be in that running if they live up to the hype. And this is the games, and some of those haven't even come out yet. But I know there are people talking about Baldur's Gate. I know Diablo isn't on the radar right now, but when it can, and the reason why I say that is because there's so many games that have come out that it's like it's hard to find that defining game that came out. But there's a lot of games that are in the running that could be up there that you wouldn't say, why is that game up there? You see what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
if I told you, if I gave you these five, you wouldn't hate it. If I gave you Baldur's Gate, if I gave you Zelda, I gave you uh, Diablo 4, Super Mario when it came out. That's four already, right?
I I would need. Like, I feel like this question is kind of loaded because you almost have to wait till December before you can be like, "Is this a defining
Okay.
year?"
Okay.
Because we're
Okay.
like, I get what you're saying in that.
Yeah.
Could it be? Maybe, but there are a couple games that we just assume are going to be good because of the pedigree of who made them. Which, to be fair, They usually don't miss, but there's an
Mhm.
opportunity that even if they don't miss, maybe they're just okay. So I don't know,
You
but I see
and
what
you're
you're
right,
saying.
and you're right because CD Projekt Red released Cyberpunk, and I thought, and I said this. You can go check our old channel. I said this. Cyberpunk was going to be Game of the Year, and when it came out, it was not Game of the Year. So,
Hmm.
a studio who has the pedigree like CD Projekt Red could drop a game and it could be trash. But I believe Insomniac can't miss. So you have Spider-Man 2. So like when I look at some of
When
these games that
Spider-Man came out, oh, we should have done more research, but that's not what we do. We can do another story. I'm just curious. When Spider-Man came out, was it considered Game of the Year for the Video Game Awards? Do you remember?
I'm going to go look.
Yeah, let me see if I can look at this too.
I'm looking with Spider-Man Game
Because
of the
I feel
Year.
like I remember the voice actor Yuri Lowenthal was probably nominated. Oh, you know what? It probably was. Like that might have been the year when God of War and Red Dead Redemption 2 came out, and they won everything pretty much.
Hmm.
So maybe it was. Okay, I'm just curious.
It came out in 2018. So let's look at 2018,
Yeah, because that had God of War,
2018 Game of the Year
Red Dead Redemption
nominees.
2. Yeah,
Celeste, God of War, Red Dead Redemption 2, Marvel Spider-Man, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and Monster Hunter World.
those were big
So
games.
so what I'm saying is Spider-Man was originally a game of the year. Spider-Man 2 is coming out, and that's what Sony's banking on. Say like there's nothing else Sony's got in the pipeline that they're like, hey, you should play this because they know they have Spider-Man coming down the pipeline. And
Hmm.
Spider-Man is people, it's just like video games, just like movies, people clear release dates because they see something coming and they're like, I don't want to compete with that. Spider
Hmm.
Man is in its own category. Um, so it got me thinking of could 2023 be a defining year in gaming? But is it technically a defining year in gaming because so many games were pushed back that they had to release these things?
Yeah, maybe. I still don't think we've seen the full extent of everything that got delayed due to COVID, right? Because there's stuff that
Yeah.
was supposed to come out this year that got
Hmm.
pushed back to next year. A big example. What's Rocksteady's game? Kill the Justice League,
Hmm.
Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. That was supposed to be out this year. That got pushed back. And the
It's probably a
video
good
that
thing.
they, well, yeah, the video that we saw, people were like, "Oh, this is what the game is going to be." No,
He was
thank you.
shooting purple stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like even with the year that they're putting in it, I don't know that you can change the game that much to not be shooting purple stuff. So I don't know. We'll
Here's the
see.
thing. I don't care if you're shooting purple stuff. Is the game good? And that's what I want. And I know it's a live service game, and I know that's what people or it's popular to hate those games right now. But there's a reason people are making them. It's because they make money. Fortnite, Apex Legends, Destiny, PUBG, Counter Strike. These games are popular for a reason. One, they're good. Two, they're competitive, and as humans, we have a competitive nature, regardless of how you express it. Whether it's physical, whether it's with video games, whether it's with competition game shows, we're competitive by nature. Those games are popular. I don't know if that game is going to be good. I don't care if you shoot purple shit as long as the game is good. As long as you have an in-depth storyline, the game is good, it's engrossing. I'll check it out because it's Justice League gets killed by Suicide Squad. Like
Hmm.
those are two things I love. So I'm willing to give it a chance.
Okay. Hopefully, because who did Gotham Knights? That wasn't Rocksteady. That was
Nah, that
the spin-off
was
company that did the other one. That people
hmm
were like, this wasn't great. I don't know. We'll see. We'll
so
see.
um I will say this. I I I am leaning more towards this as defining year of gaming because there are games that have come out.
Hmm.
So let's take Remnant 2. Remnant 2. Um, I haven't played it yet. It's in my queue, but it's one of those games that piqued my interest, not because of the Souls like because I'm not a real big Souls like. What piqued my interest was it's a game that you and I can both get. We can both play and have two totally different experiences with the same game. The idea of them changing the game to the point where you could play the whole game through and you and I can have two totally different experiences is something that I find fascinating. And people are really loving the game. When you hear people play Remnant 2, the people who play it are like, this is game of the year material. And it may not have the AAA studio behind it like a lot of other studios do, but that to me speaks volumes, kind of like when I talked about Zelda, that Zelda is taking some of the same mechanics that we know and love and throwing it into a genre you did not expect to see it in. So that's something that I think and that I think is worth highlighting, as well as no one expected Baldur's Gate to be that good.
Yeah, and I think the thing is they weren't expecting it based on what it was, right? Nobody, people like D&D, but
Mhm.
nobody's like, oh, this is because the thing that I've heard about the game, and I haven't played it yet myself either. I think I want to play it now that it is on PlayStation 5. Is that this is a really interesting way to get people into D&D. I'm
Yes.
hearing that a lot as well, which is interesting because
Mhm.
I like the idea of D&D. I've never played D&D. Well, I played D&D like games, but I've never played like a literal, oh, this is a Dungeons and Dragons or whatever. I played other spin-offs of it and stuff, which have been fun, pen and paper RPGs or whatever. But I like the idea of going back and playing something with the fifth edition rule set and kind of getting my hands into that. I think that's cool. Um, I think it's interesting that Baldur's Gate 3 came out, Starfield came out. Starfield does not appear to be the 10 out of 10 all around that everybody wanted, but it seems like more people are enjoying it than not. Um, and
Well,
I think
yo,
that's,
hold on. Let's back up before we get to what people think. What do you think? Because you're playing it.
am
What
I
is
playing
your?
it?
Are you about to do
I've,
a hot
I've,
take
I've
right now?
no, I'm not. I'm not doing a hot take. I mean,
Hold on. Hold on. Let's backtrack. You ordered the special edition. Let's start from there,
I
and then
did.
let's go from there. So let's start from there. You got the special edition. What do you think of the special edition? And start from your experience from
The
there.
packaging and the physical box stuff that you get is all cool. It's very, very cool packaging. The watch is nice. All the features and all the extra little junk that I'll
Mhm.
probably lose in a month is very cool now. Um, the game itself, it's okay.
I'm about to watch from you.
I mean, I haven't even like done anything with the watch. It's
I'll
still
give
in the
you
packaging and all that stuff.
I'll give you 350 for that watch.
$350?
350.
Or
$3.50. The
oh, okay,
same
never
amount of
mind.
money that Cartman in South Park they was gonna give.
Okay, okay. But yeah, the watch is nice. The box, all the stuff is cool. The game itself,
Mhm.
it really is fine. But I haven't put enough in to really explore the systems.
To get to
I
that
prob
part.
right, yeah, I probably put in maybe 3 or 4 hours at this point, and I've liked what
Yeah.
I've played. But I'm honestly playing a different game. I'm playing right now a Sea of Stars.
Okay.
It is made by the same people who did The Messenger. I don't know if you played The Messenger.
I have
It was
not.
a 16-bit like action adventure game. Really
Mhm.
fun, like in the style of Ninja Gaiden or whatever. But Sea of Stars is an ode to like 16-bit RPGs, like all the old Final Fantasies 2 through 6 or whatever, Chrono Trigger, Secret of Evermore, Secret of Mana, all that stuff. I'm really enjoying Sea of Thieves,
I
and
love
I
how
found
you
myself
said
playing that.
I love how you like glossed over Chrono Trigger as if it's not one of your all-time greatest games.
Well, I mean, it's not the only 16-bit RPG.
No, but it just you made it seem like you said Chrono Trigger like a dude who used to date Beyonce and was like, "Yeah, I did, Jackie, Beth,
Hmm.
Beyonce," and you just like kept going like that was like, "Excuse me, sir, did you say Beyonce?" Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
how you did Chrono
well,
Trigger.
in that instance, to him, Beyonce was just another lady for him.
True,
So,
but
you know,
It's Chrono Trigger for you.
it is Chrono Trigger for me. But I mean, again, it would be one thing if this was Chrono Trigger 2, a true Chrono Trigger sequel, but we'll get into that later. But no, this game is, I'm really enjoying. I put in like maybe 35 hours at this point,
Mhm.
and I think like the plan now is I will probably beat Sea of Stars completely before I go back to Starfield, just because
Okay.
I bought into that quicker than I did Starfield, and I've heard
Mm,
Starfield takes a little bit of time to get into. So
it does, and I'm hoping by the time I get back into an Xbox, they will have fixed all of those things like the maps, getting into the game, and there will be a patch that makes it a little easier to get into the game. Um, I'm still on that. I'm still hyped for Starfield only because I love space games in that type of genre. So I don't care how long it takes for me to get into it. I was one of the early adopters of Destiny, and I love Destiny from the beginning. I know a lot of people are like, Destiny didn't have this and that. And I was like, cool. Y'all keep complaining. I'm gonna keep shooting these people in the face. So
okay.
that was me. So we take Starfield out of the equation. It
hmm
wasn't the 10 out of 10 everybody thought it was going to be, but it wasn't
Um,
Redfall.
keep going, but I'm gonna. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah,
It,
that's
and
true.
it,
It was not
it
Redfall.
wasn't Redfall. So I, in Microsoft's defense, in Bethesda's defense, it's a win because it wasn't Fallout 76 and it wasn't Redfall. So I feel like that's a win. But when I think so, when I think of the games that have come out, and I think of so at the end, so right now, as we're doing this, we're in September. There are games that haven't come out yet that could easily get to the top if they're good enough. We still haven't seen Mortal Kombat, Lies of P, Forza, Alan Wake 2, Spider Man, Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Um, as
I'm
much
gonna tell you now. I don't think Mortal Kombat's gonna be considered Game of
okay,
the Year.
so
Like maybe
let's
maybe it'll be considered Fighting Game of the Year, but I don't think people are gonna be like, oh, that's Game of the Year.
okay, and I would so I want to hear your take on that because this is a year that we got Street Fighter 6
hmm
and Mortal Kombat 1.
hmm
Why would you say neither one of those? Now, don't
I
let me
didn't say Street Fighter.
hold on. I'm not gonna put words into your mouth. Why do you think in a year that we got both of these games that either get a reboot or a sequel, does it help push it over for this being a defining year in gaming? Does that make
That's a
sense?
different. I mean, kinda, but I feel like that's a different question from whether or not Mortal Kombat was gonna be Game of the Year.
Well, two-parter then.
Okay.
I want to hear your opinion on why Mortal Kombat will not be Game of the Year, even though we have. And the reason why the reason why I bring it up is because we haven't seen it yet. We haven't played it yet, so we don't know.
Yes, we have.
Oh, we have.
Yeah, yeah. There've been betas. There've been several betas.
See, I guess just because you have a beta doesn't mean the game won't be. Because here's another thing:
hmm
Diablo 4 had some betas and some early testing, and then it turned out that that worked because they were able to make a game that was amazing. Same thing with
hmm
Baldur's Gate. Baldur's
hmm
Gate had a lot of different testing, alphas and betas, and then it got and it turned out that that worked. That they had these because they were able to improve upon that.
hmm
So I say that to say we have not had the final version of Mortal Kombat 1.
That is true.
And with Mortal Kombat getting a reboot, and then Street Fighter 6 coming through. So that's a separate question. You're right. That lean to me, those two defining video games, fighting games, helps push to me the argument that this could be a defining year in gaming. Now, let's go back to that first question. What makes you think Mortal Kombat 1 may not be game of the year material?
Because not Insomniac, NetherRealm Studios games,
Mhm.
I think a lot of people will say, and I can't speak for the whole fighting game community, but I feel like a lot of people say the storylines in NetherRealm games are on point. And if of any fighting game franchise and company, NetherRealm is leagues ahead of everybody else. Their storylines, like the story modes, are great.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times the actual people that are competing in Evo and love Mortal Kombat 1, I think that community is very passionate. I think a lot of times that community is they kind of want more out of Mortal Kombat, and we kind of saw
Explain
that with we saw
explain
that
what
with
more
Mortal
is.
Kombat. We saw that with Mortal Kombat 9 and X or 10.
Mhm.
People really loved the options and the freedom and the creativity you could do with the combos in those games. But when Mortal Kombat 11 came, people were like, the fidelity in terms of the graphical fidelity of the game is great. But a lot of times people were kind of like, oh, I don't really have as many options as I wanted as I got with the other two games because the other two games were faster in terms of like actual gameplay speed. They were faster. So you got to move around a little bit more. It seemed like a lot of the times when Mortal Kombat 1 first came out and people were playing it in tournaments, you had to kind of pick a preset of these were the moves you can put on every single character. And because you couldn't have your whole roster of moves, it kind of left you limited in what you could do. So a big thing that I always heard is you can't be creative in terms of you can't be as creative in the combos in Mortal Kombat 11 as you could in say 9 or 10.
Let me ask you this:
And I
Is
think
that
that same thing is going to apply to Mortal Kombat 1. But to your point, we haven't seen the full game yet, so maybe they change some things around.
and so that's what I'm saying. So if it so back to the original question, if they fix those things that people had issues with in the beta, where do you see Mortal Kombat 1 going forward? Could it reach that pantheon of being caught like, and I'm not saying it will, but could it be considered game of the year material? And if it did, like, in other words, when we look at game of the year, because we watch the show and we see all the reviews and all the people, there are certain games that are like, you're like, huh. And then you're like, okay, I can see that. Would Mortal Kombat 1 be a huh? Or would it be, okay, I can see that
I don't
if
know,
they
man.
fixed
That's
it?
that's who. I mean, if they fixed it, maybe. But I don't know because I feel like so many people jumped on the Street Fighter 6 bandwagon in terms of people are like, oh, this game is fun. This game is a lot. I think people said it was a lot of fun, and from the jump, people haven't figured out all the tech in Street Fighter, not Street, yeah, Street Fighter 6 like they did with Street Fighter 5. Because for a while, like in the first season and second season,
Mhm.
people had kind of figured out they know the meta of this game. It wasn't until they added more V triggers and stuff and gave you more options to make the game more fun, to give you more creativity with your combos. But what I'm seeing now is people are really loving Street Fighter 6 because they're so open ended so far, and people haven't figured everything out yet.
So they're
Will
getting
Mortal Kombat 1 be the same? Maybe.
so they're getting their money's worth.
Sure.
Now, here's and the reason why I bring that up is because two of the biggest gaming franchises, two of the biggest fighting game franchises, came out in 2023. Two of the biggest
Street Fighter 6 has a
RPGs,
92 on Metacritic right now.
yes, um, two of the biggest gaming franchises released a game. You have three RPGs that were released this year that did maybe not redefine the genre, but helped push the genre to new heights and actually got new players in. Baldur's Gate, Diablo 4, Final Fantasy. So you have those. Then you have survival horror. You have Alan Wake 2 coming out later on this year. And then you had the remakes, Dead Space and Resident Evil 4. Now, I have had to eat crow and admit, okay, remakes may be good for the genre, may be good for video gaming. And I love Dead Space. And Dead Space, I bought Callisto Protocol. I
Did you
paid
ever beat that?
70. Um, okay, I'm back.
Okay, I felt like I
Did
was
you?
echoing there. That was for. Oh,
Sorry,
still here.
it was a laptop,
Okay.
government laptop. Uh, I did beat Callisto Protocol. I liked the story, but it was very generic. But I did like the story. I liked the game. Was it worth $70? No, it was not. Bought Dead Space on sale. paid $30 for Dead Space. Dead Space Remake was worth $70. I'd have been okay if I paid $30 for Callisto Protocol. But
Hmm.
I put my money where my mouth was. I saw a new IP. I liked the IP. I bought it. I'm not mad because out of the two experiences, I paid $100 for two games. I liked one more than the other. Okay. But I will say that Dead Space, out of the two games, was the superior game. But it's a remake. And we've talked about this, should remakes be game of the year? To me, Dead Space showed you what a remake should be. And then we got Resident Evil 4. And I was never a big Resident Evil fan out of the original games, but 4 was the game for me on GameCube. And I've told the story before. A friend of mine, Justin Martin, we swapped consoles. I lent him my PlayStation, and he lent me his GameCube
GameCube.
so I could play Resident Evil 4, and I was hooked. And I played every Resident Evil after that because of 4. So for 4 to get a remake, I'm all on board. Um, and with that being said, that's why I'm leaning towards saying 2023 is a defining year in gaming because of the games we did get that push gaming genre forward. Now, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before about a lot of things.
Chat, comment below. Is this the defining year in gaming, or if not, pick a year that was defining for you?
And what makes it a defining year in gaming? Because again, for some, so let's look at right now. I'm on Den of Geek. Den of Geek has a list of the 20 best years in video game history ranked. I'm not going to say what's one, two, three, but so let's look at a defining year of gaming. I'll take 2009. Notable game releases: Left 4 Dead, Batman Arkham Asylum, Uncharted 2, Demon Souls, Dragon Age Origins. Uh, let's look at another year that they said, and for me, this is I understand why they said that. 2010, Red Dead Redemption, Mass Effect 2, StarCraft 2, Limbo, Super Meat Boy, Metro 2033. Um, 1997, GoldenEye, Castlevania Symphony of Night, Final Fantasy VII, Mario Kart 64, Fallout. So it looks like that they're picking games in the early part of their franchise or games that came out and they were like, oh, this is a huge moment in gaming. And I can understand from the other side why 2023, because none of maybe you're saying none of these games were a huge moment or dramatic shift in gaming like some of these other games were, like a GoldenEye, like a Mass Effect. Is
Okay.
that fair? Is that fair to say? Why it would not be a defining era gaming?
I mean, yeah, right. Again, I think the biggest thing you can always take away from all this, it's all subjective and it's fun, right? It all
Yeah.
depends on what you like and really what you really grok with.
Hmm.
Um, for me, Sea of Stars has really been a lot of fun this year, so I mean I'm enjoying that a lot. Um, man, when did Two Point Campus come out? Was that this year? Was that last year? I don't remember. I mean, I'm just thinking of all these games I was playing before.
Hmm.
Um, Persona 5 Royal was free on Xbox Game Pass this year, but that probably came out a long time ago. That was on PlayStation, wasn't it? Yeah. Anyway, I think this year is good. I think this year definitely shows people have figured out how to make games in the pandemic, and I think I'm grateful for that. Now that we're in an endemic, people have figured out how to make games with COVID, make great games that people are talking about. You got your Baldur's Gate, you got your Legend of Zelda, you got your remaster, your remakes or whatever. Final Fantasy 16, all that stuff. So yeah, I think the biggest thing this year has showed me more than anything is just that people have at least come up with a pattern for making games or figured out how to deal with COVID and working from home and still making quality AAA games. I'm excited for Spider-Man 2 once it comes out, October or whatever that is. I probably won't play it till next year when I can get it for cheap, but I'm excited just to see.
Really? Hmm. Okay.
Man. I got to stop spending money. I just spent $300 on this game that I'm not even playing, so I can wait. Because I
um,
bet you I bet you you'll probably find the consolation edition of Starfield probably at one of your places that you go. Where you go, Goodwill, you'll probably find it for $20 or something in a few years, knowing you.
wow. Wow. Really?
Although to be fair, you would probably find just a case. I doubt they would have the watch inside too for $20. That seems crazy.
I'll buy that
Because
case.
it actually is a legit smartwatch, so you wouldn't find that for $20.
I do want that watch. I like if so me and my wife actually sat down. So when I told my wife about what you had gone through your weekend when
Oh
Starfield
yeah,
came out, and
yeah.
she was like, she actually felt bad for you when I told her like the game was late, and then I told her like about the watch and everything, and you took the day off, and she was like, "Oh." Now keep in mind, this is a woman who had a double ear infection, sinus infection, and pink eye, and she felt bad for you about
About playing a video
Starfield.
game. Yeah.
And I was like, that, yeah, she was like, damn, that sucks. I was like, yeah. And so I understand your pain, but I would have been right there with you because if I'd have had the extra money, I'd have bought that I would have for that watch. And because I love the idea of Starfield, I
Hmm.
really did. And I bought in and I watched that Todd Howard presentation. Um, I really did. And I'll be honest with you, even with all even all the talk about Starfield, I'm still invested. Like I still want to play it. That's
Hmm.
because I know it's going to be one of those games where they're not going to abandon it. They're going to invest in it, and it's going to get better. So
Sure.
I'm all on board. So speaking of subjective, uh, the Vulture came out with the story,
Hmm.
and I find it quite interesting because it's about a topic we haven't lamented about it, but we have talked about it.
Hmm.
And it's about Rotten Tomatoes. And basically, the Vulture, it's called the decomposition of Rotten Tomatoes. The most overrated metric in movies is erratic, reductive, and easily hacked, and yet has Hollywood in its grip by Lane Brown, with reporting by Luke Winkie. And I think the article is interesting. I think it is something that we should call attention to, but also think the article is it highlights something that we have talked about on this channel and our previous channel before that needs mentioning. Take reviewers and critics' opinions, but do not let it define your experience with whatever it is that you like.
Hmm.
So, this is a story about Ophelia and Bunker 15.
I don't even know what that
Oph-
movie is.
So, Ophelia is a movie, it's a retelling of Hamlet. Now, here's the thing I already took problems with the description. So, here's I'll read the first paragraph. In 2018, a movie publicity company called Bunker 15 took on a new project, Ophelia, a feminist retelling of Hamlet starring Daisy Ridley. Critics who had an early screenings had published 13 reviews. 7 of them were negative, which translated to a score of 46% on an all-important aggregation site, Rotten Tomatoes. A disappointing outcome for a film with the prestigious aspirations and no domestic distributor. I already take problems with this because your first sentence you're calling Ophelia a feminist retelling of Hamlet. Why is it a feminist retelling? Why is it not just a retelling of Hamlet from a woman's point of view? Because that word is so charged and loaded. And the reason why I bring it up is because they go on into the article using words. It's almost like they had an agenda when they wrote this. Instead of, as a journalist, as you are, and I ascribe to be, your job is to tell the story and not have an agenda and tell the story right down the middle, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
So I already have a problem with the article going with that statement. But the idea is Bunker 15 is accused of paying critics to give the movie a positive review on Rotten Tomatoes. They tried to game the system. And it seems like it worked. The Vulture has seemed to expose this, but then went on to pile on, disparaging Rotten Tomatoes and them opening the door of critics from other places that weren't just print journalism. And to me, that's where it devolves into, you went too far. So, what did you read the article? Have you read the article
No, I read IGN's article, which talked a little
about?
bit about it and
Okay.
contributed. They pull parts
Mhm.
from it. Yeah.
Yes. So go ahead. Tell me what you think of.
I think it's interesting. I think it goes back to the there was always this thing that people would be like, "Oh, critics are paid,"
Mhm.
when they're bought off and whatever. And critics are always
Yes.
like, "No, we're not." And I do feel bad for the critics who aren't paid because
Yes.
now you are doing your job and hopefully you're doing it correctly and you're giving your
Mhm.
opinion, but it's your opinion. Nobody's paying you to do it, and now nobody's going to believe that you're not paid. So that really does suck a
Yes.
lot. Um, but I think it's interesting. I think it does go back to the idea instead of I hope the overall takeaway, and I don't think it will be because everybody's always angry about something, but I wish the overall takeaway would just be, oh, you know what? This is somebody's opinion. Let me form my own opinion. Who cares what
Yes.
they say?
Yes.
That's what I want this to be, as opposed to what I think it's going to be, just being like you said, you're going to get the negative toxicity and everybody being whatever and fighting whatever, and maybe it becomes political. Who knows? Everything becomes political. Um, but I just want it to be like I like this. I don't like this. Here's what somebody thought. Oh, this is your opinion. That's cool. We don't have to agree on the same thing, but that's what you like. That I don't like that. All right, cool.
So the one thing about the article, and I read both. I read IGN's Reed's article about it, and then I read the Vulture article about it, and then I
Hmm.
also watched your boy Dan. Uh, he had a video up, and I did watch that, and I I liked part of the article. I liked part of the article, but it seemed like a lot of times they cherry picked certain things because it had an agenda. And one thing I don't like is unnamed sources. I really hate that. And they talk about an indie director said that he felt like his movie didn't do well because of Rotten Tomatoes. And I feel like so they bring up Ant Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So here's one of the things that they talked about. Uh, Here's one of the, and this is a paragraph further down in the article because they talk about Ant Man and Quantumania. Because here was the argument for that movie: the early screenings for that movie was favorable. So when the screenings went out, or when people went to the movie, they gave it a very favorable rating. And then the movie was released to wide release, and it wasn't the critics reviewing it, it was the regular people. The movie did well the first week, but then afterwards there was a huge drop off, about 70% drop off. And here's the article. But the strategy can be surprisingly effective on tentpole releases, for which studios can leverage the growing universe of fan run websites whose critics are generally more admiring of comic book movies than those who write for mainstream outlets. No offense to comicbookmovie.com. For example, in February, the tomato score for Ant Man and the Wasp: Quantumania debuted debuted at 79% based on the first batch of reviews. Days later, after more critics had weighed in, its rating sank into the 40s. But the gambit may have worked. Quantumania had the best opening weekend of any movie in Ant-Man series at 106 million. And its second weekend, with its rottenness more firmly established, the film's gross slid 69%, the steepest drop off in Marvel history. Now, here's where I take issue with that. We both saw Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, right?
hmm
That's one of the movies I saw opening weekend when it came out. We both saw the movie. What do you remember about our review, and what did you remember about the movie?
It was all right. Like it wasn't. It didn't set the world on fire. I'm like,
Nope.
this is fine. It's kind of
Nope.
boring. CG is kind of shitty.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's whatever.
And we
It's
said
not the.
that,
It's
didn't
not.
we?
It's not. Yeah, it's not the worst Marvel movie. It's not the best Marvel movie.
And we said that, didn't we?
Yeah.
This article is supposing, and I'm not saying they didn't do this. This is a practice that has been done for years, and they're gaming the system. You hold a screening, you invite critics who you think would be favorable to your movie to review your movie. You have a high score because you invite people who you think will be favorable to your movie. They come, they watch it, the movie comes out. When the movie's released, it has those little blurbs, 4 stars. We've all seen it. And then the movie comes out to wide release, and then people were like, this wasn't that good. And the movies drop, then the movie drops off. This happens with all of these movies. There's a huge drop off for a lot of these Marvel movies, for a lot of movies in general. The idea is to hold that audience going for week after week after week, or build an audience. Quantumania didn't benefit from Rotten Tomatoes favorable reviews. Every Marvel movie has a huge weekend, and just about every Marvel movie has a drop off because the first week we as nerds or as fans go to see it. The idea is that the movie will not have that big of a huge drop off because those of us who enjoyed the movie will then word of mouth get other people to watch the movie, and it will sustain and it will stay in the movie theaters like I don't know, a Barbie. So to me, it's almost like when you read the article, it's almost like they had an agenda. If you're not paying attention, these little digs. Ant-Man had the biggest weekend of any Ant-Man movie because what was it? The first movie in what? Phase 5.
hmm
It's the first property. So after Phase 4, the last movie was what? Wakanda Forever. So going into Phase 5, the first property had recognizable stars. It also had the first appearance of Jonathan Majors as Kang,
hmm
named Kang. Because remember in Loki, he was what? He had some weird name.
He who remains.
There you go. So this is the first time we saw Jonathan Majors as the villain. Because as Loki, he was a surprise character. We didn't know he was coming. He was supposed to be the big bad, and people wanted to see that. Because as you had pointed out, this was the movie you were waiting on because you wanted to see if Phase 5 could recover after the lackluster that was Phase 4.
hmm
So it's like it's almost, and as I read the article and the more and more I read it, it was almost like they had an agenda, like they wanted to stick it to online critics in a way of getting at Rotten Tomatoes instead of just commenting on the idea that Rotten Tomatoes is just one site. Yes, it has a very big hold in the industry, but watch the fuck what you want to watch, man.
hmm
It's like, don't worry about what somebody else says. If you like something, just watch it. And Rotten Tomatoes isn't perfect. It is an aggregate of what a lot of people say. There's a lot of people who hate on certain movies, and guess what? You still like them.
So then, I think the question is, what happens to Rotten Tomatoes going forward? Like, does Rotten Tomatoes change? Do you think are movie studios still going to use Rotten Tomatoes in terms of like trying to boost their box office numbers with their overall aggregate review scores? Or
I think so. Here's the thing. So watch this. I'm typing in Ophelia. I'm trying to spell it correctly. Don't believe I did. So let me copy and paste Ophelia into Rotten Tomatoes. Let's see what happens. Oh, I definitely did not spell this shit right. Uh, Here we go. So as of right now, as you're watching this, I am typing in Ophelia into Rotten Tomatoes. Guess what?
what's
Doesn't
that?
show up. Doesn't show up.
Huh. Okay.
They pulled the movie off of Rotten Tomatoes. And from what I have gathered, and I just wanted to see if Ophelia showed up because from what other people are reporting, every movie that Bunker 15 has promoted has been pulled off Rotten Tomatoes. To me, that's the wrong idea. You're bringing more attention to this problem by pulling the movie. I think you leave Ophelia up, you leave the critic scores up, and you allow people. Maybe there's a way to close comments from the viewing public, and you still allow people to comment as far as critics. I don't know, but I think just erasing the movie from your site does a disservice. I think, and we have said this before. Rotten Tomatoes has had a very unhealthy stranglehold, and critics in general have had an unhealthy stranglehold, whether it be newspaper critics or whether it be online critics, to shaping what people think about film, cinema, video games, and even comic books. Because we have both said, don't hate it till it comes out. Watch it, read it, and then form your own opinion. Because we have watched the same thing, and you've been over here, and I've been over here.
hmm
And it
More
seemed
specifically, I've been right, you've been wrong. I think that's what you meant to say, but that's fine. The liquor was talking. Yeah, go ahead.
how do you know that was liquor? I mean, it's just a
Because
cup with
because
some ice
you're
in it,
because you're because you're Leroy. Is it
sir.
not liquor? What is it?
It's not liquor anymore. The ice is melted, so it's probably
Okay.
just slush.
Okay.
And you're a hater. No, I think for me, I don't mind Rotten Tomatoes, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't use it
hmm
because I watch a trailer, I read a clip, a blurb, and I say, okay, is this movie something that I want to see? And then I see it, and then after I watch it, I will read a critic's review, and then I'll talk about it with people. But I form my own opinion about whether or not it's good or not based on my own opinion. Because there's a
hmm
lot of stuff that I've watched that critics were like, this was the greatest thing ever. And I'm like, nah, that wasn't that great. And then I've
hmm
watched things and critics were like, this was trash. And I'm like, this was amazing.
Sure.
So, what was a movie for you that was critically acclaimed that you were like, nah,
Um, I don't know. I don't know movies like you do like that. I don't know.
really?
Um, what was the one where Casey Affleck won his Oscar?
Uh, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's a boring
The
movie
one
too.
over the one over Fences, where Denzel that year I
Yeah,
think should have
I
won
know.
the Oscar,
I
but
know.
whatever that movie was like, it's all right. But maybe
I
you know
know.
what? It wasn't. It clearly wasn't for me.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Casey Affleck. Um, Light of My Life,
No, that don't sound right.
Manchester by the Sea.
That's the one.
96% on Rotten Tomato has
Okay.
as for tomato meter, 78% audience score. So
Okay.
seems like the audience may be on your side on that one.
Nah, because I would have been lower.
Really? Well,
I would have
keep
been
in
lower.
mind it's an aggregate of everybody audience wise. So as
Sure.
much as you were lower, there were people a little higher, but that movie did have a tomato meter of 96%.
Okay.
Um, for me, the reason why I say watch what you want, um, and and even with us, fuck the critics. One of my favorite movies of all time, and to me, is the greatest love story of all time. It has a tomato meter of 53%, an audience score of 74%. But when I watched it, it spoke to me like no other movie did. And granted, I followed this movie's inception from when it was a graphic novel to when it was cast to when it was shelved and then it was actually made. The Fountain.
Okay.
Brad Pitt was originally attached to the movie, and so was Kate Blanchett, I believe. Darren Aronofsky ended up directing it. It was a graphic novel from Vertigo, and it was supposed to have these sweeping battle scenes, and it didn't have that. And it ended up being
Y'all, Leroy gone. I don't know what just happened to Leroy and his internet, but it went out. Uh, can't tell you. They wasn't expecting that to happen, but you know what it is. It's we trying. You know, sometimes the internet works, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know what Leroy was going to say about the fountain. I'll try and pontificate here and see if he comes back in. Let's see if he knows that he's gone. In fact, let me text him right now just to say that he went out for a second. Let's see if he's coming back. Um, oh, computer restarted. Great. So we'll see how long it takes for him to come back in here. Let me see. Were you done, or you want me to wrap up? Let's see what he says. Um, so let's give you my thoughts here, unadulterated, when Leroy's gone, and the kids can play and the adults gone. Um, do I think do I think Rotten Tomatoes is going to go away? No. I'm hoping this is kind of a reckoning for them, though, right? That maybe people will change how things are moderated and how things are brought in. Um, I'm hoping that maybe there's maybe a system of checks and balances or some sort of committee or board that will come in and be like, okay, this is how Rotten Tomatoes is going to work. I think the system is too far gone for Rotten Tomatoes to ever be gone to ever be truly gone, and I think I wonder how many people actually read the Vulture article and how many people are talking about it, because we're talking about it here and it's on IGN, but I don't know. I'm not on social media like that to know, do people even care, right? That's the big question. Because you can raise all the stink you want in the world, but if you were the vocal minority and not like the majority, then it doesn't matter how many people are coming in to talk about it. I heard Leroy slowly come in, so maybe he'll be jumping here in a second. But until that happens, I don't know if enough people are raising enough hell about it for people to be like, oh, we should care about this and we should do
I'm
this thing for Vulture or not. But whatever.
I'm
Leroy's back now.
I'm back, baby. Rotten Tomatoes tried to shut me down, but I'm back because I'm here to talk about the greatest love story of all time, The Fountain. And where I left off was Brad Pitt and Kate Blanchett were attached to this movie. Darren Aronofsky ended up directing it with Rachel Weisz and Hugh Jackman. And when I watched this movie, I went into it, didn't know what I was getting into it. I watched the trailer and I was blown away. I literally, I don't say this often, I shed tears at the end of this movie. This movie has a 53% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I say this, watch what you want to watch. I agree. I heard a tail end of what you were saying about critics and will this raise to a level of uh, I honestly don't.
I was just saying,
Uh,
is the vocal are enough people talking about this issue that Rotten Tomatoes is going to change, or are they going to still be the same way? And I don't know what the answer is to that. Like I was saying, I'm not on enough social media sites like Reddit or whatever to know if enough people are talking about that Rotten Tomatoes is going to care. Because I think this will be a big deal for a week or so, and then it'll go back to being business as is.
so here's the thing. It's a big deal in the internet community and streaming channels. Because of the things that later on in the article that they bring up was that Rotten Tomatoes opened up its critics pool to include more people of color, more women, more people who with disabilities, and the term woke was used. And you already know, just like I know, how that affects people. So
Hmm.
channels leached onto that. And so you have people who are like, oh my gosh, this is why. And that's why I said that little word at the beginning, feminist retelling of Hamlet. And I was like, why was that put in there? And it made me realize that Vulture had its own opinion about this and its own agenda because they're a physical publication. They're trying to defend themselves and put themselves as an authority on movies when there are more people at the table. And it seems as if they went and instead of just reporting the facts, came with their own agenda about movies and aggregate sites and movie film criticism as a whole. So I say all of this to say, and watch what you want to watch and form your own opinion, and then see if you enjoy it and talk to people about what you like and what you don't like. But at the end of the day, don't let your opinion be swayed or let your opinion, don't form your own opinion. Don't just leech on to somebody else who's loud because they use buzzwords, because that's what's going on right now. Um, you can type this into YouTube yourself or into Google and figure out hand they're able to rail like, oh my gosh, perfect example. Do you remember when this came out?
What is that? I can't tell.
The Spider Verse.
Okay.
Remember when this came out in theaters? Do you remember the whole idea about somebody people were making money off of whether or not Gwen Stacy was trans?
Hmm.
That's the same thing. Those are the same types of people who are making the argument about Rotten Tomatoes, who are making the argument out of, oh, they opened it up so that now these people are woke and that's what's wrong with film criticism. And that's why I said you have to be careful about people's agendas and why certain people write certain things. I personally think that it was a good idea to write about this. If Bunker 15 is paying movie critics for favorable reviews, that's something that should be reported.
Sure.
You putting your own speculation into that article is where it should stop, unless you have empirical evidence that what you're saying can be backed up. But if you go further into the article, they talk about the drop off with Rotten Tomatoes, and they talk about when they added these extra critics in there, and then they try to skew the numbers into saying, oh, when they added these people, the wokes, that's when it went wrong. That's when it went crazy. And it's like, no, every other aggregate site, Metacritic, um, has the same dip with movies and when they're released and when critics talk about it. And it's just one of those things where I was just like, you did the thing you said you accuse online reviewers of doing. And that's what kind of bothered me. Because again, I personally love The Fountain. It did not do well on Rotten Tomatoes, but I don't care because I love the movie. And I
Hmm.
think that's what we need to get back to. Film criticism about we love, what we don't like, and not worrying about what a website says.
There we go. On that, we'll wrap it up, folks. We've been talking long enough. Um, you know where to find us: YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. We're on YouTube right now as you watch this video, hopefully. Also, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, Threads. We trying, y'all. This is the We Trying channel, Nerd by Nature Productions. That's Leroy and Michael. You got anything else?
Uh, what's a movie or a show that you love that every critics or other people hate? What's something that you personally enjoy that you're like, I don't care if you hate it. I enjoyed it. And I'm not saying it's good. What I'm saying is, was it something that you enjoyed? And it's something that if the critics had told you not to watch it, you'd have missed out on something. Because we all got that movie, whether you realize it or not. That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know from the people.
Okay. I'm trying to.
Oh, what got you through the week, sir? Before we wrap up.
Sea of Stars.
Okay.
Yeah, I've really been playing that off and on as I after I get off from work, driving from Charlotte or whatever. I'm playing that all the time. So Sea of Stars. As soon as I get off this thing with you and hit this to upload, I'm gonna play some more. So
Good for you, sir.
I would probably say the first Street Fighter movie. I'm pretty sure that didn't do well with critics, but I love that movie unironically. The one with Jean Claude Van Damme and Raul Julia.
I'm looking up Mortal Kombat, the first one, and I want to see what Metacritic has to say about it.
I tried to type it in, nothing came up for me. So
I wonder if it's down. They were too busy trying to shut down my stream.
I don't know. I mean, and also
Wait,
that movie is so old.
Mortal Kombat Annihilation,
No,
1997 or
no, the one
95.
before that, 95.
It has a 47%
Yeah, I
score on
like
Rotten
Mortal
Tomato,
Kombat.
and it has a 57% audience score.
Yeah, I enjoy that. But Street Fighter even more so because Street Fighter is just so foolish. I love it.
Okay. Well, that's the stream. That's the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe. We're gonna get out of
There
here
we
so
go.
Michael can watch some more Sea of Stars.
No,
Michael,
play Sea of
that's
Stars. It's not a show. It's a game.
I said what I said.
Okay,
That's
that alcohol
that's Michael.
talking.
That's Michael. I'm Leroy. We're out.
We're out
Deuces.
indeed. Deuces. Where's it at? There we go.